Hey guys, I'm here with Arthur Ko, that is half American, half Korean actor. So Arthur, thank you so much for accepting my invitation of interview again. It's a pleasure to meet you today. So can we start?
Yeah, sure. It's a pleasure to
Yeah.
be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, the first question is, tell me a little bit of your career and if you feel you're satisfied with this, if you want to grow more, and what you think about Asian cinema. Do you think it's growing and being popular around the world or not?
Yeah. Well, to start off with your first question, my career, I haven't been acting for that long. I moved to Korea about a little over almost 7 years ago now. I grew up in the United States in Los Angeles, lived most of my life there. Moved to Korea, and I didn't plan on really acting. But after I got here, there was just a few things, and I really wanted to try something that I've always wanted to do, and I had the opportunity, and it was acting. So I started, and it's been about a little over 4 years now since I've started, and my career, you can't really call it much of a career. I've had like small roles here and there in dramas. A few in movies, a couple movies. I was able to be one of the main characters, one of many main characters in a movie that was released this year. So that was by far the biggest role I've had so far. And about Asian cinema, where do we start, right? When we think of movies, it's all about Hollywood, right? And I grew up in LA, near Hollywood, watching all of these movies. I think that's where I got my interest and passion for acting. But Asian, especially Korean cinema, has been growing amazingly over the past, I would say 10 years. These days, especially with like Parasite, Minari, Korean cinema has been making its name known. And one thing with Asian or Korean cinema, I feel like Hollywood has its merits. I mean, the budget, the scale is just so large, right? They spend millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions on movies, and they're able to produce blockbuster films. But Korean cinema has not had that luxury of having that much money to spend on a movie. And so I feel like they've had to compensate through other ways, which is why, this is just my theory, but which is why the plot is so good with Asian cinema and dramas, right? These writers and directors just know how to squeeze every emotion out of the viewers, right? So I feel like that's where it's Asian cinema is very strong, and that's why it's getting a lot more known and popular these days.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I feel like it's getting well known around the world now.
Yeah, awesome. I think the same, especially here in Brazil. I have a lot of friends, including me, that love the Korean cinema, especially the TV series. And we know a lot of actors that are really good actors. And I think it's, okay, we are like the Western, but there are some differences. But here in Brazil, we have a lot of creative actors. Unfortunately, we don't have this support, and it's not the most popular cinema around the world, because the American one is like, oh, the top of one. But it's not growing like Korean cinema and Japanese movies. But okay, we are growing, and I feel really satisfied because we step by step is growing, being popular, especially on Netflix. So I'm really happy with this growing too, and I really agree with this growing of the Korean cinema, because here
wasn't there actually,
sorry,
wasn't there actually that one, there was a Brazilian film, I think last year, that was just, I can't think of the title right now, but there was a one about a boy. They filmed it. Wasn't it a Brazilian movie? Maybe not. There was just this one film I watched, and I forgot the title. I'm sorry. If I remember, I'll bring it up again. Sorry, go ahead.
No, there's no problem. Maybe you that had watched this, because there are a lot of Brazilian movies on Netflix, and there are good ones. There are one that talk about vintage Rio, that is like where I live, and I was like really emotional with this. And it's really popular, not only here in Brazil and Rio de Janeiro, but around the world. And I think it's the same, and I hope the Korean cinema will have a lot of success because people are really amazing and good at acting. So let's go to the second one. In addition to being an actor, in which other artistic areas do you work? Like, is your YouTube channel, because I saw that you have a channel related to your career as an actor, or is more like a hobby that you where you express yourself and etc.?
So I never really planned on opening a YouTube channel, but how the story behind it is, um, there were a few people on Instagram who were asking me, can you show me around Seoul, right? They were really interested in seeing parts of Seoul,
Mm-hmm.
and because they've never visited before. And I was like, okay, yeah, how can I do that? And, I can try to upload some photos and stuff, but they're like, oh, can you do like live broadcasts, right? Because there's live broadcast on Instagram now. So I was like, sure, sure. And so I did a few live broadcasts whenever I was going to like different neighborhoods and areas and, landmarks and things like that. And then some other people were like, oh, I missed the live broadcast, is there any way I can see it? And I'm like, oh, I don't, that was my first time really doing live broadcasts. I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. And they're like, oh, can you like put it up on YouTube next time? I was like, okay, sure, yeah, I can do that. I guess I can like save the video and put it up on YouTube. And that's how the YouTube channel started. It hasn't even been that long. And then I kind of just took it from there. And I'm not really super creative in coming up with content. So whenever I do like, whenever I'm introducing a new area of Seoul or eating like some Korean food that I usually like I deliver a lot, because delivery is so well developed here. I'll just like turn on the live and then throw it up on YouTube. So that's not, it was never really planned. So I guess you can just call it a hobby. Uh, and other artistic areas, I gotta say, I'm very not artistic. I love music, but I'm not very talented in it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've been doing some voice acting these days a little bit, doing some audio guides, um, theater. I do a little bit of theater here and there. So yeah, besides that, I
That's
don't know.
it.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I've watched it in your YouTube channel, and it was like it was cool because I felt like I know you a little bit more, and it's more like when you show to the others on Korean culture. It's like people know more about you, and not only the actor that is an actor, only a professional, serious, but the other side, you as a person. So I think it's important, and I have to put more hit on my YouTube channel because it's more professional. I want to put the interviews and I'm Larissa, an advertiser, etc. But I don't put myself, my personality. So I think it's really important the others know more about you and your work. So let's go.
Mhm.
I mean, how much art is valued in your country? You think South Korea values art?
Um, this is a very tough question. Just from my limited experience here, Korea is very education oriented historically, and it's well known that Asian cultures, and Korean culture especially, values education, getting a good education, going to good colleges, studying hard. Um, and it's always been like that. But I feel like these days, art is making its way up a little bit. I do know parents are focusing a little bit more on well-roundedness of their children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like they'll send them to get like computer coding classes or art classes or things like that. Extracurriculars, right? Like taekwondo, martial arts, right? Korean martial arts, ballet, piano. So I feel like the arts is making its way up, and a lot more of the younger generation too these days, with social media and the growth of YouTube and everything. Their dreams are becoming more and more diverse, right? Usually a long time ago it was always, oh, I have to become, you know, a doctor, a lawyer or something, right? But nowadays it's like, oh, I want to be a creator, a YouTube star, you know, something like that. So I think it's becoming a lot more diverse and accepted in the country. But this is still speaking kind of as an outsider, because I'm not really like Korean. So that's my view on it and what I've seen.
I'm sorry about the noise, you know, because it's the day here and where I live, there are a lot of noisy people. Oh my God.
We're like 12 hours apart, right? Exactly.
So I have to scream, you know, I have to use a microphone because people here are saying. So before asking you other questions, because I don't want the noise, okay. I mean, it's very interesting how Asia value art, because I'm screaming because when I asked the Thai boy, what the Thai actor, he was like, oh, Thailand values a lot culture and creative. And I was like, oh, how lucky you are, because here in Brazil, we are really creative. We love art, we consume art, okay, it's considerable, but we don't have the support, and we're like, our education is really technical. Like we study to be a doctor, a lawyer, like the common ones, but not when you, I told many friends that I wanted to be, that I wanted to work with communication, not with engineering. People were like, what? You study a lot for this? Because people don't know the diverse areas. So it's very interesting, because when people think about America, and I'm not only talking about USA, the other countries of America, people think, oh, they value art a lot, they are creative, oh, they are not so traditional. But when it comes to professionals, we are still very traditional, unfortunately.
Right.
So
that's kind of similar to Korea. Yeah, kind of similar to Korea in that sense.
I think it's better, the noise here, so I will continue. So do you have an artist that inspires you? When I ask this, it's like an Asian one or even Western one, a Mexican, Brazilian, USA, from USA. Do you have someone that inspires you?
Well, yeah, I definitely have role models, you know, a few of them actually, but if I were to share one, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a Korean actor, but he's also been in Hollywood films. Byung-hyun Lee Byung-hyun. He was in G.I. Joe, in Red. And so he's one of those actors who succeeded in Korea and was able to make his way into Hollywood, which is ultimately what I want to do, which is what my goal is also. I want to kind of build up my filmography and career here in Korea, and then eventually make my way into Hollywood and US films, because, you know, I honestly, the language, English is much more comfortable for me, and I grew up watching Hollywood, and that's always been a dream of mine. So yeah, I feel like he is a great role model for me in that sense. You know, he succeeded here. He's a top class actor in Korea, and he's well known in Hollywood now also, you know. So yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know this person that you mentioned.
You might recognize him. You might recognize him when you.
Oh, maybe
he's been in
by
a few
the name.
Right.
I know the one that it's a singer to Rain. Go Rain.
Right. Rain also was
I
able
love
to
him.
make his way into
Yeah,
Hollywood.
I've watched a movie with him, the American movie, and
Ninja Assassin and Speed Racer. That's right. He was in a few movies.
That's it. So I asked about this, so let's go. what are the differences that you think between Eastern cinema and Western cinema? You think there are differences?
Yeah, I think I touched upon it a little bit earlier already, but
Mhm.
now this is just from completely my point of view. Like when you think of Hollywood, you
Okay.
think like blockbuster Marvel films where they, invest millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions into their movies, right? CG, action, blowing things up. And so it's just a visually just spectacular, right? Spectacular visually, and there's that draw, and it's just fun. Um, Asian or like Eastern cinema in general has not had that luxury of having big budgets for films, spending that much money in film. So I feel like they had to develop and draw interest in other ways, which was through like plot, character development, being able to touch the emotions of the viewers, connecting with people. And so I feel like in that sense, the script writing and um, the plot is just very emotion oriented and visually sensually oriented, whereas the Western cinema is very like flashy and a lot of CG and and there's merits to both, and so I just feel like fundamentally it's just kind of different when you watch the
Mhm.
movies.
Yeah, I think the same. I think like Hollywood cinema is like spectacular, or Marvel ones. You want to go to the movies and see them. But I think I love the Asian cinema. Oh my God, I love.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah,
the acting. I think it's pretty cool. And I love the dramas. Oh my God, it's okay not to be okay. I love this one, it's like I cry a lot because it's
yeah.
very
It makes you
emotional.
cry. It like pulls at your heartstrings, and
Yeah, touch your
yeah,
soul. So I love it's not only people think that it's only the romance, innocent romance, but it's more than
oh,
that.
yeah,
And I'm
everything.
really happy of this.
Yeah, sure.
So, okay. Did you ever thought about acting in theater? Like not only in cinema or series, films?
Yeah. I've done some theater, right?
Mhm.
I was able to do my first theater production play 2 years ago, 2019, early 2019, and that was my first experience in Korean theater, and that was just such a mind-blowing experience. It was just a whole nother world. Um, just the thrill of being on stage with live audience. And this was pre-COVID, right? Pandemic. So there were, audience full of a theater full of audience, and it was just something I never experienced before in front of the camera. So yeah, I fell in love with it, and so right now actually I'm part of a theater production right now also this year. Because of COVID, there has been a lot of struggles there's been show cancellations and delays and things like that, but it's still something that I've very much enjoyed and want to keep doing.
Interesting. So finally, to finish,
Mhm.
and what does art represent in your life?
Oh man, art. Let's see. Um, well, as far as acting goes, acting has been just, my life has changed 180 degrees, right? I never did anything remotely close to acting before I started like 4 years ago. And now I can't imagine doing anything else, and I've always loved watching movies. I love music, I think like I love music. I'm just not I'm just not talented in singing or anything, but I'll like, just like strum a guitar sometimes, tinker on the piano sometimes and just try to sing. But like the arts is just something I feel like somebody, a person cannot live without. And if they do live without it, their life would be so much better with it, and it's just something that the scope of it is just so great that I guess I can't imagine life without art. I mean, life is art, isn't it? Life is art. Like we can't. It's not one simple answer. Life isn't an answer, and art. There's no answer in art. Um, yeah, there was something that one of my acting teachers, mentors taught me or told me once, and it was, there is no correct answer in acting, um, but there is a wrong answer. Right, that's what she told me. There are no correct answers in acting, but there's no wrong answer. I mean, but there is a wrong answer. So I feel like that's what art is. There's just so many different answers to it, and ways to enjoy it and have it affect your life. So yeah, can't imagine life without it.
That's it. I think the same. I think we are surrounded by art, but we are art, and it's the way we can represent the world we live and our emotions. And I'm really happy that South Korea values art, and I hope Brazil value more because it's not so good. Okay, but I really hope so. And thank you so much. That was the last question. And thank you so much for
Thank
inspiring
you.
people with your art. And you deserve a lot of success in your life. Okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and it was great chatting with you. Thank you.
Okay. So that's it. We ended. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you very
Okay.
much.